Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of A Mirror of Shadows. I was literally working on edits for this up until like 4 minutes ago and just printed it really fast. So, yeah, we have had quite the day today. George woke up and like had tweaked his back or something. So he is thankfully able to drive and get the kids. However, he is not feeling great. Evie has been sick. I think maybe allergies or something like that. So we're in it. We're in it. I am wearing the ghost reading merch. Isn't this so cute? I actually got several of my new merch items in. So we have this Salem Book Club tote. So cute. We also have the fit check for my rough draft era hat. This has matching shirts and things like that as well. Oh, you got that shirt in green, Cassie. I love it. And then we've got this is the Broken Chapter Society kind of academy logo that I had made. So cute. Love that. I also have a Salem yesterday. Was it yesterday at the full moon or new moon thing? I know not everybody got to see that, but that was the Salem Witch Academy shirt. It looks so cute. And then we have the Salem Book Club in a t-shirt too. So that is really fun. I do still want to order a few things for Rough Draft Challenge, and George is getting the Muse Always Wins stuff up, and we're going to have various other things coming up still for Rough Draft Challenge. So if you're interested in that, there is a link. It should be linked in the like little merch shelf down below. But if you need an actual link, I will grab that for you. I think it's just like fourth wall. I don't know, Sarra Cannon - fourth wall, but I'll find it for you guys. Yes, we will do pages again today. So episode 5, I think Janine asked, are we doing giveaways besides the pages? So anytime we have a reading, there's always a giveaway over on the blog. So today's giveaway is audiobooks of Beautiful Demons, Inner Demons, and Bitter Demons. Monday's giveaway is still open, and that is for naming a character in this series. So there's always a giveaway on the live stream and a giveaway over on the blog whenever we have a live stream. Thank you, Ghosty Francis. I love your earrings. These are from Betsy Johnson, and I actually got them, I think, at TJ Maxx. But they're like little spider webs and then the ghosts and then the opposite on the other side. They're so cute. I thought they were perfect for the ghost merch. I think this is so cute, like the ghosts reading. This shirt does come in purple, pink, green, and several other colors. But anyway, thanks to everybody who has supported the live streams and Spectacular with grabbing some merch. Never expected, but always appreciated. So we're going to read episode 5 today. It is also another kind of close to a longer one. It's almost 4,000 words. But I had mentioned at the very beginning that I would kind of reserve the right to, after episode 6, take a week of break. But I was hoping I wasn't going to have to do that. But I think I am going to actually do that. Just take the week of break so that I'm not pushing myself to a limit. Because if I'm going to do this and Rough Draft Challenge, it has to be sustainable. And I kind of hit a point last year where I just made a promise to myself that this is going to have to be like, I am not going to push myself beyond something that feels healthy. And I have just been feeling like, even though there's simultaneously extreme joy and excitement, I also have been feeling the strain of like making sure this is good enough. The other thing is, so I drafted the entire book, but as I have been editing each episode as we go, some of the story stuff has changed. Like this entire episode, I almost rewrote the entire thing in the last 24 hours, which is going to affect what comes next. So I think it will be healthier for me to take a week off next week, not from live streams, but just from the readings. And then we will continue in November for the next 2 weeks after that. So that would put us reading episode 7 on November 3rd. 8 on the 5th, 9 on the 7th, and then we would finish the book the week of November 10th, 12th, and 14th. So then this is part of why I did not put the book on pre-order yet. I know some of you were asking about that because I didn't want to put it on pre-order for like the 7th and then not be able to get it out in time because of the edits. So I will make some decisions this week about what day the pre-order is going to go. But I appreciate the fact that we have such a loving community because it is a lot of work to produce this as well as getting videos and keeping them going for Rough Draft Challenge. And I don't like, there's kind of two options. You either just stop doing all the stuff or you find a way to make it sustainable. So right now, this is kind of my way to make it sustainable. We will take Monday completely off. Next week, I will change the Spooktacular calendar and give you guys an update. But Wednesday is still my 15th anniversary of Beautiful Demons. So we will still go live at 4 p.m. on Wednesday next week on the 29th. And we will just have a Beautiful Demons party. We'll do some... I don't know what exactly. We can talk a little bit about shadow demons. Maybe we'll do a poll about what to talk about, but it'll be a little bit more coffee chat, maybe telling a little bit more about the story of what has worked for me as an indie author and some of the things that I feel like are coming up for me for the future. How I got to where I got. We can kind of talk about some of that stuff. And then we will also still have a coffee chat on Halloween, but we will not have a BCS breakdown on Halloween because I need to wear my robe. I know we have to wear the robe. We will not have a BCS breakdown because I realized as room mom for the 8th grade, we have a big trunk or treat event and I'm supposed to be at the school at 3:30 and I'm suddenly like, oh, I can't do that actually. So I'm going to have somebody else kind of meeting me there at 4 so we can quickly like 4:15. So I will have a coffee chat on Friday and then I will scoot out the door immediately to go run trunk or treat. So quick overview, then we'll start the reading is we will push 1 week of break in between episodes 6 and 7. So it's like we're splitting the season into 2 parts as everybody loves with Netflix, right? Like I've seen all the complaints about like Bridgerton's going to be in 2 parts, but that's what we're doing here. So we've got episode 6 coming up on Friday. Monday, Sunday we'll still have BCS reading sprints. Monday we will take the day off. I will rest with my family, take a little bit of time to get ahead. Wednesday we will meet for a Beautiful Demons happy birthday party at 4 p.m. and Thursday Twitch streaming, Friday Halloween party at 4 p.m. coffee chat. And then we will start back in early November and read for 2 weeks, episodes 7 through 12. So oh my gosh, tomorrow is the birthday of the disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, which also deserves celebrating. My first book and my latest book. So lots of fun. I know that is so often the way TV was. It was like you would start it at the school year, take a break over the Christmas break and stuff, but we had to wait each week, right? It wasn't like they dropped all 7 episodes at once. I will still be doing Twitch this week, absolutely, for sure. So yeah, thank you for giving me that. I knew at the beginning that it was good to sort of give myself that permission to say I can still be a success if I take a week break, but I can just feel some of the stress of being too busy start to pile up. So I think this will give me that little bit of leeway. So with that being said, if you want to enter the giveaway for today's pages, it is #episode 5. Let me make sure. Yep, we got 44 entries so far. So go ahead and enjoy that. And yeah, baby is turning 1, book baby's turning 1. It's like one of my book babies is turning 15. I cannot believe so much time has passed. Deep breaths. Episode 5. Here we go. This is episode 5, A Lesson in Pain. I woke to the sound of a bell that vibrated through the crystal walls and hummed its way through my aching bones. It wasn't an unpleasant way to wake up, and if I hadn't been immediately reminded of the fact that I was still a prisoner in some morbid game to the death, I might have cozied up in my blanket and let the gentle vibrations lull me back to sleep. Unfortunately, the sight of my new uniforms lined up on the hooks behind the door was enough to kickstart my pulse all over again. I pushed upright, every muscle aching. The fake bruises Slate's potion had conjured the day before were already fading to a dull yellow, but my body still felt wrecked from the stress and tension of the past couple days. Sleep hadn't helped. If anything, it made the exhaustion settle deeper, heavy as the amethyst walls around me. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and stretched. A faint violet glow seeped through the window cut into the crystal wall, casting fractured light across the room. The false sky outside was beginning to shift as night was replaced by a golden haze that pretended to be a sunrise. It was beautiful. A stark contrast to the reality of this place, but one that brought me at least some level of comfort. Nothing as beautiful as freedom, but 1,000 times better than the dungeons any day. I quickly splashed water on my face and slicked down my unruly waves, coaxing them into 2 thick braids that fell across each shoulder. Last night, after crying my eyes out, I'd cleaned up and met Callie for a flavorless meat and potatoes kind of dinner and then got fitted for my uniform. Apparently, we'd be required to match during training. They'd taken my dirty, ripped clothing and assigned me 2 sets of sleeping clothes, 1 set of what they called off-duty clothes, and 5 sets of identical uniforms. I pulled one on now, fitted black trousers, a sleeveless, form-fitting shirt edged in violet thread with an amethyst crescent moon embroidered over the mark on my chest, and a light armor harness made of flexible crystal plates. I fastened the buckles of the harness and laced up the sturdy black boots that had also been assigned to me last night. The mirror in this room wasn't full length, but standing far enough back from it, I got a pretty good sense of how I looked. Strong, more confident than I felt. Maybe I'd be okay after all. Footsteps sounded outside my door, followed by Callie's voice. "You up?" "Barely." "Slate's already waiting for us. Brim said he doesn't look happy." I stepped onto the terrace, stomach alive with butterflies. "Does he ever?" Callie laughed and fell into step beside me. Her wild pink hair was tamed into 2 tight buns just above her ears. The violet threads of her crescent moon mark shimmered in sync with mine, a reminder that no matter what we thought of him, we all belonged to Slate now. The air grew warmer as we followed the sentinels toward our new training grounds. The bell I'd heard earlier reverberated again through the amethyst all around us. There was something comforting about the hum of it. At the final turn, the corridor opened onto a vast terrace overlooking the lower cliffs, and the view stopped me cold. An entire obstacle course sprawled below, carved into the glowing crystal. There were rings for combat, shifting platforms suspended by invisible magic, mirrored tunnels that twisted like serpents through the stone. Slate stood at the center of the landing, still as a statue, hands clasped behind his back. His black uniform gleamed like obsidian in the dawn's light. The moment he turned toward us, the mark under my skin flared with heat. "Line up." Brim narrowed his eyes at me as I stepped next to him. Less than half his size, he towered over me. I prayed we wouldn't be sparring today. Orion stood on the other side of Brim, and he gave a slow tilt of his head when I looked his way. We hadn't had any time to speak, but he seemed nice enough, quiet. Alara joined us last, practically skipping in like a child ready for her first day of kindergarten. "Today," Slate said, voice carrying effortlessly across the training area, "you'll be evaluated for the basics." He paused just long enough for the silence to flip my stomach with nerves. "Fail to live up to my expectations, and you'll eat last, sleep last, and you'll be the first here at training every day until you do." A ripple of unease passed through the group. My pulse hammered in my throat. I had no idea what this day would hold, but one thing felt certain. By the time this training ended, I'd either be stronger or I'd be dead. Slate didn't wait to explain. He simply turned and started down the stairs toward the training area. We followed in silence, the faint hum of the shard vibrating underfoot like a living heartbeat. Magic was palpable here, like it was alive all around us, vibrating through my veins. I'd never felt anything like it before. Was it coming from the crystals or something else? It certainly wasn't coming from inside me. I'd never been very strong with magic, but hopefully I'd be strong enough to make it through whatever today's first challenge would be. When we reached the arena ground, the space stretched wider than it had looked from above. Slate led us to the far edge of the space where columns of violet stone jutted from the ground, slick with condensation, rising into the sky. Suspended bridges and platforms of glowing glass moved between each of the pillars, swaying slightly even though there was no wind. Slate stopped at the edge. "Your first test is one of endurance," he said, his tone almost casual. "Without it, you're dead before the first game begins." He faced us, silver eyes catching the false dawn. "You'll climb, you'll cross, you'll fall, and then you'll start again until you don't." Great. So today would be a lesson in pain. "Nothing I demand of you today will be easy, but I expect you to give it everything you have." A shimmer rippled through the air. The bridges above twisted like snakes, columns shifting position with a grinding sound. My stomach dropped. "Begin." No warning, no countdown, just action. Callie launched forward first, climbing one of the lower pillars with inhuman speed, her boots squeaking where they hit the slick stone. Brim took the gap in a hard, solid leap. Alara's movements were slower but elegant. She practically danced across the moving platforms. Orion took a moment to study the motion of the bridges ahead as they moved. Then he followed her up, every step methodical as if he were doing math equations in his head to find the most efficient spot to place each foot. I hesitated too long, unsure if I could even climb these towers. The mark beneath my skin flared, a pulse of burning heat that stole my breath. "Move," Slate barked. I winced, realizing his previous threat about the mark making sure we obeyed was more than just a threat. I moved. The first pillar was slicker than it looked, warm and humming with energy. My fingers slipped once, catching on a jagged edge that tore open my palm. Blood made my hand slip a few times, but I kept climbing. The platform above shifted, forcing me to lunge for a handhold before it pulled away entirely. Below, Slate watched, arms folded. His expression was completely unreadable, stoic. But at least he didn't look angry yet. That was something. By the time I reached the first bridge, my arms trembled. This would have been hard enough if the dang platform stayed in one place, but all this movement was killing me. A pulse of power rippled through the bridge. My balance faltered, and I dropped to one knee just as Brim landed on the other end with a solid thud. He watched me steady myself, eyes flat, but didn't say a word. Why did he always look like he hated me? Weren't we on the same team here? I clenched my teeth and pushed forward, ignoring the ache in my muscles. Halfway across, the bridge twisted sharply. I cried out and grabbed for the edge, hanging by one arm as violet light flared around me. Slate's voice carried up from below. "If you fall, you'll start again." The glass bit into my fingers. Every instinct screamed to let go, to make it stop, but I didn't. I hauled myself up, inch by inch, until I reached the far side, collapsing onto the crystal ledge. My palms were raw, my lungs felt like fire. Behind me, the faintest hint of motion. Slate had stepped onto one bridge himself, moving with fluid, terrifying grace. He didn't even look down. He passed me, reaching the highest platform before anyone else, arms folded again, surveying us like pieces on a chessboard. "Move faster," he said. I gritted my teeth and kept climbing, each step a small eternity. The others slowed, even Brim's breathing growing ragged. The only person who'd reached the end without looking winded was Orion, the oldest of the group. I wasn't sure how he'd done it. He had nowhere near the strength of someone like Brim. By the time I stumbled onto the final platform, I was drenched in sweat, the world tilted at the edges, my vision going dark. Slate's gaze found mine across the distance. I'd made it without falling, but he wasn't about to give me any praise. "Again," he said, motioning toward the start of the course. He turned away, and I collapsed to my knees, gasping. It had taken me over an hour to reach that last platform, and I'd used every bit of my strength. I wasn't sure I could do it again without falling. Callie appeared beside me. "You okay?" I nodded, lying. I did not feel okay. My hands shook, blood running down my wrist. Callie reached for my hand. "Let's go again, together." I took several steadying breaths and grabbed her hand, struggling to stand up as we made our way back to the starting point. I nearly cried as I looked up at that first pillar again. Had it been this tall before? Come on, don't give him the satisfaction of watching you fall. You're stronger than you think. I glanced at her bandaged knuckles and nodded, swallowing the burn in my throat. Together, I said, even though I knew her encouragement would only get me so far. I had to do this on my own, or I'd bring the whole team down with me. We hit the first pillar again. The crystal felt hotter now, like Slate had turned up something inside it just to spite us. I climbed anyway. My arms shook and sweat stung my eyes. The bridge buckled once beneath my boots, and I caught myself with a strange sound I prayed no one heard. Brim's voice slid in, quiet and cold. Can't expect a thief like you to last long up here. What did you call me? I had to catch my breath once I reached the platform, but his words had chilled me to the core. Earlier, in the scarf game, Brim had asked me if I remembered him. At the time, I thought he had mistaken me for someone else. I was certain I would have remembered him if we'd ever come across each other before, but now he'd called me a thief. Not exactly a title I was proud of, but one that showed he really did know something about me. Every single job I'd done for the Order of Shadows had involved me stealing something for them. How did he know that? The mark beneath my collarbone burned like an ember. I choked, gasping for breath. The pain wasn't just skin deep. It bored straight through bone, a bright, punishing thread that demanded movement. Slate didn't have to say a word. The mark followed his silent commands, and each time he used it to punish me, the anger inside me rose like a bonfire of flame. I used that anger as fuel to keep going, determined to prove myself. By midday, I'd lost count of how many times I'd fallen and started again. The first time I missed the ledge, I hit a lower platform hard enough to crack my teeth together. The second time, I caught the bridge and dangled there by one arm until my vision sparked and I had to let go. Another time, I landed on my back and lay there staring up at the mirrored sky, listening to the sound of Slate's footsteps approaching. On your feet. It took strength I never dreamed of to obey that command, but I did it, heading back to the starting line yet again. We broke only long enough to choke down water that tasted like old coins. The sentinels watched us with bored eyes, hands resting on the hilts of their blades. Brim stood apart, knuckles whitening and releasing, eyes on the course as if he couldn't wait to get back to it, just to prove himself. Next, Slate said, we'll test your control. He led us to a ring cut into the crystal. In the center of the ring, a large amethyst stone sat atop a crystal pillar about waist high. As we stepped inside the circle, the air around us hummed. It was like standing on the edge of a storm that was about to break. You'll stand on the outer boundary, Slate said, and channel a sustained thread of power through the center stone. Not a blast, not a spark, a thread. If you're doing it right, the stone will light up like a lamppost. Your job is to keep the light as steady as possible. Lose the thread, you start again. Lash out, you start again. Hesitate, his gaze settled on me, and you'll be punished. Brim stepped into the ring first, jaw set. Power radiated from him in a steady stream that lit the target stone and held. No flourish, no smile, just confidence and power. He made it look easy. Ilara followed, a wild smile on her face as she sliced a small spot on her palm with a jagged fingernail. She effortlessly sent a line of red light singing from her fingertips to the stone. There was no doubt she had control of her magic. Orion, who I'd barely had 5 seconds to introduce myself to, went next. He took 2 deep breaths and then easily channeled into the stone, its light bright but steady. I needed to corner him later and find out what his secret was, because he'd barely exerted himself all day. Callie had to start over a handful of times, but eventually her magic pulsed through the target stone with a stream of light that wavered a bit, but stayed steady enough. When it was my turn, my nerves were frayed. Sure, I had stealth magic, but creating a thread of light and sending it towards some target, I had no idea how to even do that. Begin, Slate said. I inhaled, reaching for the quiet place inside me where magic used to sit when the world made sense. and I found nothing but noise. The hum from the shard vibrated through my spine. Slate's presence pressed at the edges of my mind like a distraction I couldn't block out. I could feel Brim's hateful gaze on my back, willing me to mess up. No matter how hard I tried, nothing happened. "I don't know how to do this," I said, the words slipping out as an angry whisper. "I've never cast magic like this before." Slate exhaled sharply through his nose. I braced for the burn of the mark. Instead, he crossed the crystal surface until he was standing right in front of me. The air thickened instantly, and I had to fight for any semblance of calm. How was he so damn capable of taking my breath away at any moment? I hated him. He didn't touch me at first, just studied me with that calm, unreadable gaze that somehow saw too much. I wasn't sure if he was planning to punish me or lift me up and throw me into the endless abyss. Instead, he reached up and slowly adjusted the position of my palms. "Your magic isn't in your hands." His voice was low, rough at the edges. "It's inside the core of your body, but you're holding back. You have to connect to it with your mind and let it flow." "I don't breathe," he said, cutting me off. "Don't think or try to make it happen. Just take deep breaths and let the breath connect to the source of power in your center." His fingers brushed mine as he turned my palms outward toward the stone. The contact was nothing, barely a touch through his gloves, but it felt like striking flint. Heat raced through my arms, through the mark, coiling tight in my chest. Something about that worked, though, and I suddenly gasped as a wellspring of power deep in the center of my body sparked to life. "Now," he said calmly, "focus that spark into a small thread of light. Visualize it until it appears." The hum in the air aligned with the pulse under my skin. A thread of light jumped to life at my fingertips. It was wild, flickering like a candle in a storm, but it was real. I laughed in awe, hardly believing I'd created this myself. But the moment I laughed, the spark dashed toward the target like a lightning bolt. I stumbled a half step back, dizzy from the sudden rush. Slate caught me against his chest, gripping my arms. His touch seared through his glove, the mark under my skin flaring bright. "Not like that," he said, close enough that his breath stirred the hair at my temple. His body heat surrounded me, and my head swam with dizziness. Maybe it was just the first touches of real power, or maybe it was the feel of him against me. I could hardly think straight. "Give yourself over to your power," he said. "You've been holding back your whole life. Let it flow. Learn to tap into it and then control it." It took several deep breaths to steady my heart rate, but when I did, the thread formed, thin and trembling as it reached the stone in the center of the ring. For one impossible moment, it held steady. I'd never felt so connected to the magic inside me. Pride bloomed in my chest and my eyes filled with tears. The light brightened, overloading as it flashed outward, no longer just a thin thread. Panicked, I dropped my hands and released the connection to that magic inside me. Slate stepped back as if he'd been burned. Maybe he had. His eyes lifted from my hands to my face, a muscle tensing in his jaw as our eyes met for the briefest moment. "Again," he said, voice rougher than before, "until it learns to obey you, not the other way around." By late afternoon, my hands bled and every muscle screamed in agony. The sun, that wasn't really a sun, set itself to amber behind the mirrored dome. Shadows lengthened, and the sentinels lit orbs around the arena that floated to their posts and held. "Enough," Slate said after several more hours of training, his voice echoing across the platforms. "Form up." It took me 2 tries to stand. We gathered near the lowest ring, a half circle of sweat, blood, and stubbornness. My mouth was bone dry, and my stomach rumbled from hunger. Please let us be done for the day. I wasn't sure how much more I could take. A small figure in a gray dress practically floated across the floor, weaving past the sentinels with the confidence of someone who knew she was needed. Lavender's satchel clinked with glass as she approached. She took one look at my hands and nodded. "The wounds of someone who refused to give up," she said with a smile, already uncorking a vial. She poured a thin, cool line of potion along my worst cut. It fizzed, then sank, leaving a tight, newly formed scar. Before I could thank her, Slate's shadow cut across us. Lavender went still, eyes lifting to his, filled with respect but not fear. "Warden," she said. "Lavender." I had the sudden feeling they knew each other well, that they shared secrets no one else was meant to know. He didn't look at her for long. Instead, his attention locked on us, and everything in me tried to shrink. "This was day 1, he said. "You survived the first tests." "Barely." A few of the team straightened reflexively. Brim rolled his shoulders like he was angry to not receive praise for his work today. "I know most of you have no idea how this works, so I'll do my best to explain what we're up against. The hierarchy of the Shard is simple," Slate said. "The Regent rules the city according to the Amethyst Priestess's will. I command this team. My job is to train you to be warriors who will honor the Shard with your effort. Every dawn will test endurance. Midday, control. Dusk tomorrow will begin combat training. Your performances are recorded, and favor accrues to those who rise to the challenge. Favor means extra food, medicine, more freedom in and around the Shard." "And those who fall?" I asked. "You'll either learn and get stronger or you'll die. There are plenty of condemned who would gladly take your place." He let that sit for a minute, and as much as I wanted to tell him I'd gladly trade places, I kept my mouth closed. "At the end of our training month, there will be an exhibition, the first of the real Shadow Games," he said. "We will compete against the 5 other teams currently training in the Amethyst Shard in a series of games to determine the strongest, most capable team." Brim lifted his chin, eyes bright with challenge. "And if we win?" "Then we'll go to the main arena to compete against the top teams from the other kingdoms." Nervous energy fluttered through my stomach. So there were other priestesses represented here in the Shard. "And if we win that?" Elora asked. Slate's mouth ticked, something that wasn't quite a smile. "Let's focus on getting past the Amethyst Games first. Then we'll see." Lavender had finished with the last of our group, but before she left, she hesitated at my shoulder, then pressed a small cloth-wrapped packet into my palm without looking at Slate. "For your grip," she whispered. "Smear this across your fingers before you climb. It'll sting." "Thank you," I whispered back. Slate dismissed us with a nod. The sentinels fell into motion, clearing the orbs, resetting the bridges for morning, like this was just another day that had chewed us up and spit us out. We ate dinner silently as a group, everyone too hungry and too tired to talk. Afterward, I made it as far as the barracks before my legs forgot how to be legs. Callie caught my elbow and steered me to my door. "Tomorrow," she said softly. "Tomorrow," I agreed, though everything in me wanted to say, "Never again." Inside, the room held on to the day's heat. I peeled off the harness and let it drop to the chair. My hands shook as I opened Lavender's packet. The salve inside smelled like crushed mint and scorched sugar. I didn't know why she was helping me, but I was grateful for it. If this made tomorrow easier, that would be a godsend. My bed called to me, but first, I walked to the narrow window cut into the crystal wall as the false night settled across the Shard. The sky shimmered in layers of violet and gold, reflections folding into reflections until I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Far across the terrace, a single figure still moved in the training ring, his moves precise, relentless. Slate was running through the obstacles with lightning speed, pushing himself harder at every turn. I hadn't even realized the training ground was visible from my room, but I watched him now, my breath shallow at the sight of him. Shirtless, skin marked in scars that caught the silver-violet light beneath the dome as he moved, his body carried the dark rhythm of power. Every strike and pivot carried the same control he demanded of us, yet there was something almost desperate about it, like he was chasing something he couldn't find. Who was he, really? He was hardened and cold, heartless by all accounts. And yet he'd spared me from punishment when he could have killed me. The same hands that had burned me with pain had also steadied me in the control challenge. The same voice that ordered me to bleed had also encouraged me to slow down and breathe, had helped me find the edge of my true power for the first time in my life. He'd believed in me. I hated the way my chest tightened at the memory, the way the world had narrowed to his body next to mine. For that one moment, he hadn't felt like my captor. He'd felt like someone who understood me in a way I didn't understand myself. I pressed my forehead to the cool crystal, remembering the thread of light that had flared to life between us. I watched him a little longer and then finally turned from the window, letting darkness swallow the last of the evening's light. The end of episode 5. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. It's so fun to see your comments because it's like there's so much that I know the depth of this, but it's one of the hardest things I think as an author, um, especially in this format, but is always knowing when's the right time to I gotta run this until I get her out of my head. Yeah, perhaps. Um, I love you guys. It's sometimes so hard to like figure out when's the right time to bring some of that information. How is best to pace it? And I think that was what I was still doing, like editing this and changing it and shifting it, because it's like, how much do you do before we need a little bit of a break? How much can we share about Lavender? How much of Orion can we wait until we find him? Like when's the right time to go through all of that backstory? Because when we have this like 3,000 to 4,000 words that I've kind of decided here, I have to try to fit all of it in, and hopefully I'm doing it successfully. But this is part of what I was saying about like when I redo this for the final pieces of the ebook and stuff, I probably will be adding some stuff in, because originally I had this chapter starting with her meeting Callie, exploring the shard a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. But because the structure that I have decided on, it slowed the pacing down a little bit too much. And so I wasn't going to be able to get to the midpoint that I want to get into next episode that I wanted to go. So there will potentially be some elongated like ooh, I love that Slate is an anagram of steel and Bex is a thief. Maybe something deep in my mind. But there may be some of these scenes that get elongated. Most likely there will be in the final book. So I will keep you guys updated kind of on how much expansion ends up happening. Yeah, just a little bit of fleshing out exactly. Just because as I'm reading it, I feel like, oh, I could have actually slowed this down even more to like being 16 episodes instead of 12, et cetera, et cetera. So I will flesh that out as we get to, the ebook and everything. And then maybe if it feels right, like I said, this is such an experiment. I am sure, I know there are other people that have done similar things to this with doing podcast fiction and reading things as you go, Patreon things. So it's going to be kind of along those lines of, it's not going to be perfect. There might still be word changes or things I didn't describe perfectly. There might still be some pacing things that change. But also as we move into book 2, ATOT, it's possible that I'll expand it to 16 episodes instead of 12, and we'll just kind of run with it and see it as something fun. So that flexibility is such a gift, and I sincerely appreciate you guys giving me the flexibility. I feel like I couldn't keep up with all the comments exactly, but I like this. How you doing? Oh my gosh, I just love it. This is so much fun. I love it. I'm reading back through. My breath shallowed at the sight of his bare chest. I was like, "Can we put him shirtless? Similar, a taste of toffee." No, but that would be a good, that might be a different type of series, Casey. My brother does stories on YouTube with AI generated images to tell the story. He uses his voice and AI to create a story video. That sounds cool. I would love, love, love to have some art created for this. I don't personally want to do AI created art at this time, but I would love to do some actual like human created art. I think it would be really fun to do it. So we'll see. I've gotten, like I said, several messages about that, and I will be responding to everybody. So, all right, you guys, that is it. We're going to do our quick giveaway for the day. So let me share the screen. This is for today's pages, but if you want to enter the remaining giveaways over on my blog, sarracannon.com/blog. Some of the giveaways have been announced on the blog, but not notified in email yet. And some of them have not been chosen yet, which is part of, if you arrived late, I am going to be taking a week off of readings next week. Like I said at the beginning, that I might be taking that week off, and I am. So we will just meet on Wednesday and Friday next week for other shenanigans and fun, and then we'll begin reading again on November 3rd, just to give me that little bit of break, because I'm falling behind on emails and getting back to everybody and getting all the giveaways sent out, and I really want to stick together with all of that. So, all right, here we go. So I probably won't do it today since George isn't feeling great and Evie isn't feeling great. And we have a baseball game tonight. It's like so many things. Sandra B. But I will be reaching out to everybody tomorrow. I'm also meeting, I think Andrew's here. I'm meeting Andrew for writing shenanigans tomorrow. That should be really fun. Yes, there's still a chance. I have not chosen some of those winners. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 that are done. Sandra B. Send me an email, sarra@sarracannon.com, and we will get you these pages of this training moments and some interesting moments between Bex and Slate there. A little bit of tension as it gathers. And I loved it. I'm so happy that you guys are enjoying this. All right, you guys, that is it for us today. Again, final reminder, I will see you tomorrow for Twitch streaming. If you would like to join me, 10 p.m. Eastern. I know it's not the best time for those of you in Europe, unless you want to join me super early in the morning. But for everybody else that can make it, we have Twitch streaming tomorrow night, Friday episode 6, and the BCS breakdown after that. We have Sunday reading sprints with the Broken Chapter Society. Monday, we will take off. I'm going to go change everything inside the Google Calendar in case you've been following that, so that we are up to date there. And then we'll start, we'll have a October 29th, 15th anniversary party for Beautiful Demons. And Friday will be a Halloween time. A reading sprint is basically, we've been getting together like we do with writing sprints. So it's 2 hours in my game room with my family upstairs, and we talk a little bit. Then we do 25 minutes of reading together where everybody just reads your own thing in silence. I play music in the background, and then we come back and talk a little bit more, and then we read and we talk a little bit more. So we usually get about an hour and a half of reading done, and it's been really fun. So come join us in the Broken Chapter Society if you want to come read with us. This is the curators tier, the top tier for that. And this means we will be continuing, and A Mirror of Shadows will, the finale will not be read until November 14th. So we just extend the spooktacular fun into November, and it'll be great. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to all of our replay crew for being here. And again, head to sarracannon.com to enter all those giveaways, and I'll be reaching out to the winners in the next couple days. All right. I super love you guys. Bye for now.